Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Jones, AGU President, and welcome to the Wednesday plenary of the JpGU-AGU joint meeting. As we reach the midway point of the week, Simon and I are struck by the sheer level of excitement and all the energy and enthusiasm we feel each time we're engaged with meeting participants, no matter where it is, the poster session, in the hallways, or even in the formal presentations. It's a testament to all of you and the passion and purpose you bring to your science. We also want to thank the JpGU and AGU volunteer leaders and staff who have collaborated so beautifully in designing and implementing and delivering such a comprehensive and impactful meeting.
So I'm Simon Wallace, President of JpGU, and it's a real pleasure to be able to organize these plenary sessions with Brandon and the other people from AGU. Today we're honored to welcome Dr. Karin Markides for our leadership lecture. Dr. Markides has served as President and CEO of Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden, the American University of Armenia, and Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology. She has also served as chair of Danish Technical University. Dr. Markides has been appointed Professor Emerita of Analytical Chemistry at Uppsala University, as well as an elected member of the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences and the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, where she's involved in the selection of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, and is also closely involved in the promotion of science for society and schools and academia. Dr. Markides received her bachelor's, master's and PhD, all from the University of Stockholm in Sweden, and developed her research career in the USA before she became full professor and dean at Uppsala University. So please welcome to our JpGU-AGU joint meeting stage, Dr. Karin Markides. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's really great to be here and be able to talk to you about something I think is very important today, and that is in the universities and research institutes to really think about the leadership component. And I will do that with some examples from what I have been working on, and also some of the theory that I think is important to think about. So I wanted to start this to make you see that I actually also have been doing some earth science, and my master was actually up there in the Nordic part of Sweden on the glacier to really understand the whole ecosystem of glaciers in society. And that actually, why I'm showing you this is because that is where I realized the importance of interdisciplinary research. Because this, was something that made me also move away from the earth science into my PhD, where I actually started to focus on chemistry and analytical chemistry, which is a basic science that actually is connected to earth science, life science, biology, chemistry, physics, and math and economics. So it has all of it in this as a basic science. So that would fit me perfectly. And then here I just show my academic journey that I have been, you heard about also earlier, that I've been working in different countries, in different type of universities. And I think that this, what I moved from, being a professor in chemistry into leadership in universities, because I believe really that the role of universities needs to also develop. And you will see what I mean by that in my talk here. So now this is actually OIST, showing OIST as the citation impact. And at OIST, if you don't know it, the professors that come there are very selected very carefully. And then they get the freedom to be driven by curiosity beyond the horizon of their interest. We don't have any disciplines in disciplinary borders. And so that means that both the junior and the senior scientists can actually develop this across barriers of disciplines according to their curiosity. And you can see that this has been very successful. Now the university is very young, is very young, so that, but here you can see OIST, and the size of this bubble shows that even in about 10 years old university, you can actually compete very much with the big universities in the world on citation. But now from that, really to see how can we really do something more? How can we make these professors that have have a prepared mind for doing more? How can we put the incentives for them to do so? So of course we need to really have a lot of respect for the world, what it's really looking like today, and all the challenges we have. Even though we have so much strong science and technology, we still have a lot of challenges that we need to be able to handle. So I think that already 300 years before Christ, Aristotle was actually saying the right words here. So the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So of course, this is what we have today. This whole society is driven by different silos that are really powerful and driven, but doesn't have any connection with the whole system. So who is actually taking care of the whole? Who is actually making sure that we are connecting the dots? It's nothing wrong with focused strength in market and in driving the nations forward. But we need to have some driving force also that can put these things together and connect them together. And I do believe that it is the university that needs to do that. We need to really build a trust-based integration of this new disruptive knowledge that should connect to all of the areas that we work with. We need to see what leadership really means when we also need to change the mindset of people and society. And we need to make this transformative change to be something positive. And of course, the universities and research institutes, they really need to to coach the transformative action in society based on excellence, ethos, and system thinking. So this is the situation that we have today, and how can we really enable that? At OIST, this is showing what we do at OIST, and here the professors, as I said, they come in and they get the full freedom. You can say that we place them in a comfort zone that they have full freedom of. And they have small groups, like about 10 people in the group, that they can work in any different direction they want. To keep this high level excellence here, we do every 5 years an international expert evaluation where they have to be in the outstanding to continue. So with that said, of course, we need to be able to also make these prepared minds that actually Pasteur told us about, that you have to really work on the prepared minds to change, and they can observe possibilities that come in their way. So we need to see how can we do that within the university. And I call it here added value zone, that we can really, from an institutional level, that we can actually inspire and put incentives into the system that will not take away the comfort zone, but will actually be attractive for the professors here to utilize, and they can really be able to really connect in a much broader sense and much more multidisciplinary. So what does it look like, again, at OIST? So here you can see the professors up here that have the freedom that they work on, and they work together, of course, across. But we can also, in the comfort zone, they actually start to work more and more together over time. And we can see, if we analyze it, that they actually self-cluster in different areas, like energy sustainability, the biodiversity and on land and sea, quantum, and of course, One Health in the blue zone of Okinawa, and ocean science and so forth, and neuroscience. So this is what we see when we look at this environment. So now we can actually use these open, self-clustered kind of areas to really put incentives in from the institutional level. We can do it to really catalyze the mindset by having leadership training and proactive innovation, really early stage, to see that they can connect also to the cultural heritage of the island. And then we can also put incentives in these actually clusters, really to see how they could actually work even more multidisciplinary, working with other universities and get maybe say postdocs centered in these and so forth. In addition, we can also put incentives in that really helps to develop collaboration in public-private university partnerships with other stakeholders. And here we can really be innovative, that we can develop this possibility for the students and professors and researchers to really have an influence in society. So yes, of course, we have professors that work together already, and here is an example of that in fundamental physics and fluid dynamics, that these two professors, they are actually together looking at the tropical cyclones or typhoons, as we say, as heat engines. And here's a lot of physics and fluid dynamics that they can work on to see how could they really control the heat release and pathways here, and that by doing so they could actually also control maybe the directions where it's moving, and also how really to cool it down and so forth. So really approach it from a scientific level. And so this could be done, but of course this will be very much focused on this typhoons as such. So to really unlock more possibilities for really go for global solutions, we need to catalyze these open science opportunities that we have. So when we do, the open science is of course means that we have science that is really influencing all other type of areas. So of course AI is the most relevant right now, but of course we had data science before, and material science is also an open science area and so forth. But when we have an open science area, we have to really make sure that this open science also will help to connect in a neutral way, so that we don't really discriminate any user in any area. And also we need to make sure that we connect science, technology, and also with rules and regulations, so that this can actually be really fostered in a resilient way. And so, and then we have to also understand the risk management of these areas. So when we develop this, we can put incentives in to foster this development. So system thinking is something that really, as I said, Aristotle has already told us, we have to think about the whole. This whole system is something that we really need to implement in a proactive way, and before we do the design of the projects. And then we have to think about value creation, not only volume creation, which is also a challenge today. Multi-level collaboration is something that comes in when we really work with different cultures, stakeholders of different cultures. And then if we want to scale up and work with public-private university partnerships, that has a different type of driving forces. We have to always listen and observe whatever we do, because if we work across borders of disciplines and different cultures, it's very important that we do that so we can build the trust, and we can take advantage of diversity, and we can, if we work like that, we will open up intersection that we could, of new opportunities for knowledge that we wouldn't see if we don't work with these incentives and to catalyze. And of course, the meetings of minds, as I already said, is very important. In addition to this, the university needs to really to be able to solve complex societal challenges, needs to really consider that the incentives that we are providing have interdisciplinary basic science as a connection. We can never leave the basic science in the forefront of that. The mindset shift for stakeholders is something that we need to develop, and the students need to have the tools and a possibility to do so. Incentives to meet in intersections is very important, because that's where the new knowledge is hidden. Integrative science and technology is something that seems natural, but it's not happening as it should, because science and technology are two different silos today. A line over geography and cultures is also something universities really could do, because we connect to all three geographies and all the different cultures. And of course, always attract excellence to really work in this environment. So now that these two professors I showed you already, that they work in fundamental physics and flow dynamics, they actually, with some incentives, they attracted marine biophysics in here also. So now we have three professors that work together with their areas, and by doing so, they could also start to have field studies and really look at the typhoons in reality by working together in this way. And what happens after that was that this cluster developed even more, because now when the typhoons could be studied in reality, then industry started to be interested to come in and really make measurements, live measurements in the typhoon as it is moving, and also underwater, and get more and more data to collect, so that the theory could also be developed further. And of course, with AI, we have a lot of possibilities here. In addition, there was an attraction also from the seaweed farmers, and to see how could they be influenced and helped by this knowledge. And of course, here we also have a possibility to capture carbon dioxide in the seaweed farms and see how that could develop. And here we started to get collaboration from several American universities and also funding agencies. And UHERO Foundation is also helping us to really look at this in an ethical way. So this, you can see here how this collaboration between professors really could trigger a lot of possibilities if we just put some incentives into the system. So that was these same professors that worked with this, with the ocean challenges, also connect very well into another cluster of energy. So here there are other possibilities or challenges that scientists work on, all the way from the molecular level to break bonds that are very difficult to break. You have to have the right energy in the right place, all the way through to the grid system of controlling energy distribution, and to the typhoon and other things. So the scientists could really develop collaboration in the energy sector. But this energy sector is different from the ocean, because here we have a lot of traditional, very expensive and difficult to change infrastructures, and also we have a lot of traditional kind of technology that is developed in the transportation and housing and so forth. So here we have to really approach a mindset shift among many stakeholders to really be able to capture on a sustainable energy for islands that we are after. And to do so, we need to build a test bed where we build a public-private university partnership, and university takes on the coaching role of really getting them to come together and build around the grid, so that the company owning the grid is a close collaborator, and we build around that and scale it up. And as we scale, we get more and more interest to collaborate across from the open free science to the controlled future test bed or living lab, you can say. So when we work with industry or other stakeholders in society, we have to really make sure that we are not just working like in a collaboration agreement, but like we could of course work with the projects to collaborate together. But if we do so, we cannot capture the different cultures that these two stakeholders have. In order to capture the culture, we have to really make sure that we have a strategic handshake on that top level. And if we do so, that up here we don't decide what we are going to work on, but we decide that we will work on things we cannot do by ourselves. So if that is the beginning of a trust that is sending signals down in the organization, the management levels will also meet and understand each other, and the projects will be based, on, of course, down in the project level down here. So the collaborative pre-competitive research is the base, and as we work together and we meet every 6 months, then we can add more and more possibilities into this, like sponsored research, like talent leadership development, the test bed, as I talked about, equipment, core facilities, and new standards, spinning in, spinning out companies, and also even work that we can make the industry to work with their competitors and set new standards. Because this is all, when we work together like this, we will slowly, and actually faster than you think, we will build trust. And trust is, of course, everything that has to be done before we start to collaborate. And the trust building is about listening and observing and understanding. And when the trust comes in, it really generates a positive circle that really will make the collaboration to go beyond what we think is possible. So let me just give you a few examples from Sweden that I thought would be useful and interesting here. So, you know, when we develop, you can think of going from this kind of system where in transportation in the city with the old tram to EV buses, you know, might be difficult to think that what does the university have to do with this? But let me just tell you fast that, of course, here is a public-private university partnership. It was about 40 stakeholders working together. The university took on to be the coach for this development. And we made a bus stop in a library to show that the bus is clean and doesn't disturb, it's very silent. We also put another bus in a coffee shop to show that you really could benefit from having these buses. And the public really got it immediately. So then we had the public with us, and then we could see that, yes, now when we have the bus going in and out of this in the winter, we will lose a lot of energy. So this became a scientific project that we could really develop. How can we move in and out without losing the energy, the heat inside? How can we make this very silent bus to be safe for people? And also this, how can we make a fast charging of the bus? So there were many projects, research projects that came out of this collaboration. In another example that also was a bit difficult to understand why universities should go into this is a test bed for, I'm sorry about it's hard to read here, but it's a test bed for transportation on roads. So transportation on road is really an area where it's a lot of tradition. And the different companies that have both trucks and cars, they don't really show, they're very secretive about their developments. So in order to really break through into the trust building process, we have to have a test bed that is actually attractive for all of them to work together. And so, the only stakeholder that could do that was the university. So we actually built this test bed university. I actually bought the forest, believe it or not. But we built this test bed, but we had customers from the different truck and car industries to really support this whole project. So, and then because we did that, we could actually also introduce new type of possibilities from the research in the university to use this test bed to really test a new autonomous truck, in this case, in the future laboratory that we could create like this. And so here, I think this is very popular now. After some time, we gave this test bed to a research institute that is better, to use it for the long term. But here, when we have this type of developments we could also introduce this to our students. And here is an example of a program, Unitech International, where the students from 10 different universities and 30 different industries, they actually come together and they move to another university for half a year, then they move to an industry for half a year in a very advanced internship. And then over a whole year, they actually are trained to be agile leaders by people from both industry and university together. And you can believe that these, when they become alumni, they spread out over the whole world, and they are actually very much helping the industries that that employ them. So here is an example of where students that have really had this understanding of how to really change a system. Here were students that were alumni. They started to work in different companies, the truck company and an electric car, and a telecom and a game industry. And then as alumni, they came together to the university, and at the university said that we think that we are working in the most interesting areas in the world, the companies in the world, but we are bored. We want to do more. We want to do something that makes a difference. So they actually quit their jobs and they started to work together on a new startup and they choose, because they had this knowledge, they choose the least traditional industry, game industry, to start the whole process. And so they made a software for the trucks, the traditional trucks, and they could show that by using this, freight emission could be up to 95% less. So that also opened up for the next step, where they could start to build trucks that could really develop more an EV truck solution with this EV software. And of course, it's hard as a small startup to build trucks, but instead they were, and of course also for the tradition didn't want them there. So instead they could actually work with the delivery system, and delivery system is today Walmart and Amazon and so forth, and they are signed up and work with them. And so here the next generation can go in, and they already have possibilities to drive on roads with this autonomous truck without a driver today in the United States. So I think this shows also an example that how important it is to really train the students that we have. So what is the difference now? We have, of course, conventional leadership training in the universities already. But I would say that there are two different types of leadership trainings that are maybe not so common in universities. This developmental leadership I show here on the left is actually how we train the individuals to understand their own personal preferences. And when they have their personal preferences more understanding, we start to show them how important it is to really work with people with other personal preferences. And then we start to train them how they can work in teams and get more out of the team work than they could if they don't understand this theory. And then we also can see how they can, with the whole organization, can be favored by these developmental leadership tools. This is actually a leadership training that comes from the US Army from the beginning. And it was picked up in Sweden about 30 years ago for industry. And we started to use it in the university not so long ago, but it's really a very positive development from that. But I also want to say that a very new way of looking is, if you can call it, disruptive leadership, but I try to use system creative leadership because I think it's more attractive word in this context here when we talk with academia, because this is what it actually is. We train the leaders here also that they can understand how to change mindset, how to really work with the system, how to keep the creativity as a driving force, and how to really build the trust and be able to make changes outside of the university system and in collaboration. So if we put these two new type of leadership trainings in a kind of a scheme to show the traditional, conventional leadership training here with demand and reward and control, that could be, of course, positive, but also negative. So this is the conventional way of working, and now we add these possibilities with developmental leadership and system creative leadership, and these profiles of leadership have different roles to play. They all are important, but depending on the groups that we are working with in the university, we can pick and choose different things from these three profiles into the development for the group that we are working with. And so by understanding and using all these leadership skills, we can actually really make a favorable development for the university, and also to be able to be a coach in society, and for the students to really be able to move forward and make a difference. Because when students are really trained according to this and go out in society is not ready for them. We have to really work with the society. University has to work together with the society to really make them also aware and ready for these students to come in and make these changes. So university's role for a sustainable and resilient future, this is my summary for that. And I just wanted to say again that it's very important that we always stay with the excellence in research, and that we recruit and retain this very much, and also that we make sure that the comfort zone of curiosity and freedom is untouchable and is part of the university's base. On top of that, then we can put in different kinds of incentives for the prepared minds, for the different type of leaderships, to build the trust, and to really make meeting places that will catalyze opportunities, and to prepare also the surrounding society for the students to come in and make the difference. So I also have another slide that shows individuals. So of course, this is what is very important, that the individuals, students that are going through the universities, that they also really pick up the system thinking, understanding of that the system is something you should have in the back of your mind all the time, and you can do so much more, and take advantage of other personal preferences to understand how to really work with diversity, how to really understand that what mentors outside of academia is very important to build trust, how to do that, and how to really work with both your own field and the forefront of your own field, but also be open and alert to forefront of other fields that you could actually interdisciplinary work with, or also follow the forefront, because it could be other fields could be disruptive and come in and really make a big difference and opportunities for you. So understand the diversity of perspectives is something that you will get. We train the students to do, and also to really be able to be trained to connect with society outside of the university. So finally, I just want to say that to really emphasize that engineering integrates science, technology, and humanity. And sometimes we are not remembering that, but that's what engineering is all about. And so we need to make sure that we connect the science, technology, and humanity. Otherwise, we will not really be able to solve the problems that we have around us in society. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much for that broad stroke through what the possibilities are for universities and your fascinating career. I was particularly taken with the idea of, you talked about the meeting of minds and this serendipity in bringing people together, and also the type of disruptive reorganization that I think that needs to get the universities to move in that direction. And disruption, I mean, you were a bit careful about not using disruption too much, but it has a bit of a bad press at the moment, doesn't it, with Elon Musk and, move fast and break things. So maybe you could address that point a bit more, how disruptive can we be?
Well, I guess, first of all, I think that in industry, disruption is more kind of accepted and understood what it's all about, because it means to change something, of course. It doesn't have to be changed in a bad way. So, but when we do have a society that is actually not really resilient today, so that means that disruption means that we actually can make it resilient. So kind of a new norm that we will try to find. So disruption is, if we had a resilient society, definitely we shouldn't have to do disruption. But so I think it's really, we have to think about what the word means and how we can really utilize it to really change something from in the mindset shift and really move in another direction. In that way, I don't think it's negative, but I understand fully that it's used. Words are really kind of tricky these days, and I think that's why I focus on system creativity, because that's what it's all about.
Yes, that's I appreciated that change of expression, yeah. And perhaps particularly, well, comparing different nations, you've seen many different parts of the world. Do you have something particular to say about the way it's done or not done in Japan?
Well, it's really, when you work in universities in different parts of the world, you will really be surprised how different universities are and how they are, fostered differently from their nations and so forth. So that is striking, and really then you start to think, how can we be a coach if we are so different? So you have to really we have to help each other to find, the generic, trait for what is really a university that we all have in common. So otherwise we will never be able to have a voice together. And so I think that's something that really was striking me. But in that sense, every country and every university, have also pros and cons. So it's difficult to say that something is better than the other. But we have to talk together to really identify what is really the common denominators that we would like to stand up for. And I think that I tried at least to express some of those here, that I also find when I work a lot with other stakeholders and in different countries, that they agree that only universities can actually take this role.
Sure. So I want to come to this point about trust. You mentioned that several times in your talk, but before that, I'm fascinated that there are people doing research to de-energize cyclones. That's just fascinating to me. So just wanted to kind of put a pin on that one. But this trust piece, if you could speak more to what you've seen as barriers to trust. You talked about the self-clustering that was happening in the academic setting, and I'm sure trust plays a part there, and there are probably some areas within the academy where it doesn't happen as serendipitously as we would like, but also the trust in the private-public partnership area. What have you seen as some of those barriers, and how do we get around those?
Yeah, I think, since we are actually, and we ourselves, we cannot blame anybody, we are really driven by, in different parts of society, we are, driven in different ways. And the drivers that we are using, there's nothing bad with the drivers like marketing in industry and so forth, and science in university. But if we have only that in front of our eyes and we only think in that way, it's very difficult to really listen to each other and to understand each other. We don't even think that we have to. So we do our part, and then others should do their part. And so I think that is really a problem, especially when we also have a system where we are defining and designing our projects, according to getting money. that's not a problem to get money, but you shouldn't start with that.
Right.
You have to build in the trust first, because after the money is there, that's too late. And so you have to, that's why I feel that in the university culture and environment, that's where you have to build this, so it becomes part of your whole norm and your way of thinking. And then you can much easier get the projects to become, be able to go further, and to also open up this intersection between knowledge areas. Because if you design, too fast and you haven't built that trust, that understanding each other's differences, then of course you will never see those intersections that are unknown to us today. And so I think that's really obvious when you start to build the trust system in, to be part of everything you do. Suddenly you see things that you never thought existed, and opportunities come your way. And as I said, even as a university, to really build the collaboration with industry built on trust, we even see that the industry quite soon start to ask, can't you help us to work with our competitors so that we could set a standard together? I mean, that wouldn't happen if we were not there.
Right. That's interesting, and I'm thinking about the example you showed and talked about the early career experts who were working at these companies, but they were bored.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do something more applied or such. Do you think the early career scholars can sense or pick up when there's an issue with trust in wherever sector they happen to be, and how that might impact them in their career journeys and being hired or being prepared for that next step in their careers?
Yeah, I do think that now when we have these open science areas, I think it really triggers a lot of this thinking, because an open area means that you are actually taking in some knowledge that's totally different. And then you have to understand, you cannot just decode it from your own thinking. You have to really understand where it comes from, and you have to trust where it comes from. Even so, when you make a publication in science and you collaborate interdisciplinary, you have to trust that the other science is actually delivering to you something that is solid and verified. And so that is, when you start to think about that, I think the young scientists, they get it. But the society is not asking for it. So the driving forces in society don't ask for it, and they are very strong, they're very traditional, and they give you money and so forth. So it really takes a lot of guts to really stand up and build that trust. That trust is built proactively, and I think that if you have experienced it, you get it, and you will continue to do it. So I think we could actually make that change in society if we work with the students.
Yeah, I was very taken with the emphasis on trust, and it's a little bit of a reframing of the purpose of universities. I mean, universities and what goes on there, if you're going to summarize it, in one sense, it's the pursuit of truth, I think. But
yes. But we also see, if you look at the whole world and you see that from public, the trust of universities and science is going down, especially in the Western world.
Yeah.
And how can that be? But it's of course because we don't have every verified knowledge in the world. Nature, we are far away from what nature knows, actually. So we have all the time, we are moving the forefront of our knowledge. And I think that this way of understanding, yes, it's verified knowledge, but tomorrow the verified knowledge will be here. So it's changing because we know more and more. And that doesn't fit in the system of how people are actually driving business and politics. So I think it's kind of a mismatch there, and I think that's a lot of the reason why people they believe what they want to believe, and science is not really, it doesn't look, if they don't understand that we are searching more and more, then they won't get it.
Go ahead.
I want to riff on that point right there. Something that we talked about at EGU, and there were several of us having a conversation around this point of knowledge and information in the sciences for the natural and physical world, but also in the arts for knowledge and information about humanity. Could you, and this isn't in the script, but could you speak on how important it is for our scholars and colleagues in the arts and the social sciences to be involved in these kinds of discussions to help us figure out how to trust each other? I mean, everything you talked about, yes, was around technology and engineering and science and advancement of knowledge, but it was all about relationships, leadership and education and training, et cetera.
In a way, I think it actually is easier in science and technology to, because here we have, hard data, and we can show, we can verify, we have to verify and so forth. It's not so easy in the social sciences and humanity, because, and I worked, when I was leading the Swedish, research for the Swedish government, so then I actually had researchers from all different, shapes and forms in my group. And so it was amazing to see how difficult it was for the social scientists, because they were famous social scientists. And they had, their fame was around the way that they had been, their model of thinking, their way of working, their name was on some kind of way of thinking. So they had a very hard time to change that, to move out of that, because it's part of their personality. But as a scientist, you don't have that close relation to your knowledge. So I think we have to respect that. We have to really understand and trust, see how can we make them also, stand behind something using another model than what they really were developing. And so there's something in there that it's more difficult. But of course, as I also say, engineering has, for some reason, kind of, left humanity outside of the the way of thinking. But it needs to come back. We need to get humanity back in engineering, and I think it was there 200 years ago.
Yeah, interesting. Simon, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I was thinking about the difference, talking about the scientific method, and saying that in science we are more, less attached to our ideas than social sciences. I can think of a few people, I hope not myself, who are rather attached to the ideas they've built up over a career of tens of years. But I quite agree with you that the thing that makes us different from religion anyway is that in the face of new data, we're prepared to change our ideas as scientists. And maybe for social scientists it takes a little bit more persuasion.
But a trick to really, really close that problem is these test beds, these living labs. Because if they are built up and you attract the stakeholders that want to be part of the future, to really come together, and you build up some kind of reality with all the variables there, then you can invite the social scientists and humanity in that future reality. And they are very happy to come in there. So we have tried that also. And it really is a way to, go in another door to this problem.
Yeah. I mean, this image that you build up is fascinating, and you can really see the potential from the slides you showed. At the same time, I have in my mind the image of a traditional university, a research, education-based industry that needs these boundaries between different faculties to organize the education. And so how do you go from that to...
So now, OIST is of course very different from the start. So so we don't have, but the University of Chalmers that I also showed examples from, that we did with the buses and the test bed for cars. It's a very traditional university, so you can actually do that because we just put another layer on top of what the university was all about, and we attract. You work with attraction, both internal and external, and you don't make it into an organizational body. It's a living, open center kind of thinking. So, and that is dynamic. And another thing, if you do this dynamic meeting places, another very big benefit is that you attract professors from, from the different fields, but they can be attracted to more than one cluster. If they do so, and they do, of course. So that means that they will get, build up trust and understanding from a lot of perspectives there and other set of perspectives here. And their knowledge of and possibilities will be exponentially growing immediately because they have different input in these two environments that they are actually active. And since it's not an organizational body, it will be dynamic over time as well. So I think that type of way of working in university is very good. It can be done also in traditional universities.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I want to pull in Simon's comment on the scientific method. I thought that was a really poignant entree to this question and comment, is that the way that science is conducted in the modern world is a new way of conducting science. I mean, it's the Western reductionist approach to science. And I was thrilled to see you begin your talk with, we need systems thinking. So when we're talking about leadership, how do we engage those communities that have been conducting science in a more systems and systematic way than the reductionist approach that the Western way of knowing is so common? So tribal ecological knowledge and indigenous ways of knowing, et cetera, it's always been about the system instead of breaking it down into parts and trying to study that part and then extrapolate it back.
So I guess the trick here is, to kind of see and keep the system in your brain, but not work in it. Okay. So you never work in the system because that could not really lead to anything. It's too dynamic. You have to be concrete and describe your projects. But you never forget. You have all the time. You have it's a living, in the system, as the system will have changing perspectives and input, disruptive knowledge and so forth, so that you are alert on that. Yeah. I think it's a training. Yeah. And it's surprising to me that it's not used more.
Yeah. So that's one of those leadership competencies that would need to be developed in an individual or individuals as they're moving through their career.
Yeah, you have to give some reward to that. I don't think we have too much of reward for this type of of training.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's been really fascinating discussion. I think I'd like to bring it to an end, but perhaps you could, looking out, I see a number of people, senior administrators in Japanese universities and younger people who no doubt will be in the future. Is there some sort of message? Could you try and bring that together? What would you like them to take back home with them?
Well, yes, because here we have a combination of the Japanese system and the American system, which is very different. Two very different systems, and that's an advantage. Always, diversity is always an advantage. And so we should have more diversity of all different kinds. And I talked about, if you understand your own personal preferences, then you can start to also appreciate people that are different. But if you don't understand your own preferences, all the time you want to work with people that are similar to you. Yeah. And that doesn't take you very far. So I think there are very simple, truths that could really make a big difference. But I think here in Japan, because I've been here now, it's really an honor to have been working here for some years. And I think here the science is exceptionally good. But technology may be even, too good sometimes. Yeah, so I mean, it's so good. And I try to see why doesn't these two trigger each other and more, and what can we do to really connect the technology and the science in this country more? Because I think that is such an opportunity. Yeah. And also when I talk to leaders of big Japanese industries, they agree with me immediately. They also see this opportunity. So I think we should really also, that university leaders should really come together and not compete more. You should need to compete, but you need to collaborate more than you compete. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that could happen here. Of course, in the US we have a different situation with universities there, but there I think there are some the universities, in my view and experience, is more connected to the public sector, because they work very much in developing the states and how to really, so that but less so in understanding how to work with industries in these multi-coupled collaboration agreements that I talked about, to help to change the industry to be also part of the equation. I think it's more at least what I see, what could be developed in US and really benefit.
That's great. Well, that's a really good, positive, thought-provoking point to end on, I think. So please, everyone, if we'd like to just thank Karin once more. And I'd like to mention that we have the final plenary session here at 12:30 tomorrow. It's the Frontiers in Science lecture, which will be held by Professor Jun Korenaga, and he's talking about on the beginnings of early Earth life and the practice of scientific creativity. So that sounds like another fun session. Please come back and join us then. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.